Accept your death.
So I went to McDonald's this morning just to get myself some breakfast and a coffee.
And a stomach ache?
And
Thought to yourself, I haven't had a belly ache in a while. McDonald's sounds good.
Starting the New Year's off right, you know? Just,
right.
If you start off like at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up, right?
You got to make your gut bacteria work for it, right? You can't just let them getting lazy down there. How about an egg McMuffin?
Freeloaders, let me tell you. So I get to the window, right? I get to the window. And they give me my coffee, and they're like, okay, it'll be a second for your breakfast sandwich. If you just want to pull up to stall number 1, we'll bring it out to you. So I said, okay. So I roll up there, and I'm just chilling, just sitting, chilling to my tunes, you know, same ones I listen to on my stream. And kid comes out, probably 16, 17, something like that, and roll down my window. There we go. Have a great day. And you know, the exciting voice that they use in fast food customer service.
They're required to say it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I say, yep, you too. And I go to roll up my window, and just before I roll up my window, I hear, wait, stop. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? So I roll down my window.
Running over somebody's cat or something.
I wasn't even moving yet, though. That was the thing. So I'm like, oh, maybe. So I go to hand him the bag back. I thought maybe he figured out he gave me the wrong bag or something. And I go to hand him it back, and he says, can I have a Jolly Rancher? And I was like, what?
Wait, what?
And I look in my back seat, and I have like a half open bag of Jolly Ranchers in my back seat. I'm like, sure, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I wish I can't make this shit up. And he's like, can I just like open your door and like get one? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I unlock my door, and he opens my door. He's like, oh man, this makes my day, man. This is so cool. And I was like,
dude,
take a couple.
We are so opposites. I would have been like, get the fuck out of here. I don't care about your day. Like, don't bother me, kid. That's weird.
It's so weird.
That's weird.
It is. Like, the social cues are lacking on this individual. Like, and it just like made me think as I'm driving home, and I'm just like, how far we've gone from like literally don't take candy from strangers, right? Like reaching into my back. Like here, I thought that I had like a flat tire. There was something underneath my car. Got the wrong order.
You were running over a baby or something,
yeah,
right?
The way that this kid was just yelling at me, like, wait, stop. That's just like, and then the audacity to ask me for a Jolly Rancher. I couldn't decline it. I was like, man, the bravery on this kid to just straight up ask me for one of those in my back seat.
Man, thinking of those things that employees are required to say. So I don't know if they have these up in your area, but there's a chain called Rumby's, which is like this Hawaiian sort of food, like
oh, interesting.
Not fast food. What's the step up from fast food that they call where it's like the Chipotle's and Cafe Rios and stuff, right? Where you kind of like sit down. It's like in between a fast food restaurant and an actual sit down restaurant, like sort of thing. So anyway, it's like that for Hawaiian food. You know, but it's like any other chain. It's just full of like acne-faced 14-year-olds or like whatever, you know. You go in there and it's like when they greet you, they're like, "Aloha. Well, how may I help you today?" And I was like, this little 14-year-old white kid with his voice cracking and aloha. Get out of here. Who decided stuff like that was like a good thing? Like. Yeah. It's so annoying. Like when I call places and I have to sit there, like I finally feel like we're wrapping up a phone call or something like that, and then they got to give me the 30-second spiel about the survey that's going to really help them out, that's going to follow up for, you know, whatever. And
right.
Dude, I had a bug spraying place that used to come around here, and the guy, like, they must have been paid extra for the surveys and ratings, and they just begged for a 5-star. This whole spiel at the very end, like the sob story, like, who's the one-legged kid in the Uncle Scrooge story, like Little Timmy or whatever?
Oh,
man,
yeah.
What's his name? You know, they started acting like that and just like begging for a survey response and review and stuff. I don't like shit like that. That makes me not want to use your company.
Yeah, I used to work for a company that did that same thing, and like those reviews, no review mattered other than a 1-star or a 5-star. You could give 4-star, 3-star, 2, whatever. Those just did not matter at all. It's either the 1 and the 5s that they paid attention to. So that's why it was like so important to be like, hey, if you really enjoy it, give me a 5-star. You know, like that's
right.
the only one they're gonna look
Dude,
at.
and the way that like human psychology works and stuff like that too, and what you think. Like my very first job when I was a teenager was in an Arby's. Do they have Arby's up in your neck of the woods? Do you know what that is? It's like a fast food restaurant.
I've aged out of eating Arby's. Unfortunately, it does mean things to my body.
All right, yeah, and like the McDonald's breakfast. Okay.
Or worse.
So anyway, we had the comment card section, right? Yeah, and there's a comment card on the table, and people fill it out and stuff like that. Right. And everyone's always got to complain about the fries being cold, or they ask for no tomatoes and they got no lettuce or whatever. But it was like I remember my boss saying this. It used to happen all the time, but like when she was training us, she's like, "This like." You're gonna like slay them with service, right? Like just like hitting all the marks. If this was a secret shopper, you'd be getting, like a bonus or something, right? Like an A plus. Like just hit every mark. Everything's perfect. The time was good. They seem satisfied with it. You see them filling out a comment card. They turn it in. You go look at it, and they're like, "Lobby was a little cold." It's like
you just
can't. I know, but that's what ends up happening, right? It's especially like in American culture, like in the US. I feel like this kind of
consumerism.
You serve me, right? Yeah, and servers get seen as lesser by a lot of people, and
yeah, that's sad when I see people treat people in those industries poorly just because of what they're trying to do. Like they're just making you food. Like calm down, just take your food and go. Get out of here.
Yeah. Speaking of get out of here, do we have any comments this week?
We do have comments this week.
That's not how it works.
See, if I was about ready to say like, I've got a few comments I left a 5-star review on here, huh?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's not very good, but it's better than what I did.
Oh, that's okay. We can split duties for this week. So
you keep working on it. First one at 2025, and I don't know.
Okay, all right. So first comment of 2025 here by Yetsky, who says, "I can't justify having this game installed on my PC." And I've heard this from all sorts of people that just deleted this game for other games, rivals, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And we've talked about it before, about how
it's so big.
It's huge, it's huge, and how we would like to have the story mode for the next game be like a separate file that you can install or, go through and then just delete, get rid of it. I haven't.
Almost like the game treats it as DLC, right? This is an add-on that I'm going to, like when you first, especially like on a console, you first start downloading a game and it's through like the first 10%, and that first 10% are like prioritized. That's the guts of the game and like enough to get you in there and playing it, even if the features are like way reduced because it's still downloading.
Yeah.
Remember, like in MK11, you could play like Sub-Zero and Scorpion or something.
Yeah, well, you waited for the rest of it
to
install. Oh man, that just brought back memories of like because I was trying to, when you were saying that, I was trying to remember what that character select screen looked like. I gotta say, probably one of the worst character select screens of the recent NRS games, in my opinion. I don't know.
What, MK11?
Yeah, I didn't like it being vertical like that.
I'd like it because they tried to. I'm so tired of the way the Injustice, like, because the MK11 was kind of like MK9s, right? With the vertical thing, you get the bigger player portrait thing. It's just like so bland for a character select screen. Call me nitpicky or like whatever, right? You just have like rows on the bottom and like just everything, but just it seems so bleh. Like I don't know. I like the way that like Street Fighter's looks cool, and I guess Tekken kind of does it with it, but they've got like 40 characters and stuff. How do you even organize that? You just make the icons smaller and smaller. But it feels pretty slapdash, and there's no real backgrounds for the portraits or anything, right? It's just like this little gradient and stuff. But it's been that way because Injustice 1 was that way, MKX was that way, Injustice 2, MK11, they tried to change it up. I thought it was cool, especially how it was all zoomed out, right? And then it kind of goes back to the fighting stance once you lock into your variation or whatever. Is that how it works?
Yeah, the more in my memory, the more now, and maybe I agree with you. I still don't particularly like the verticalness of it, and I didn't like that it was just the character's face on the screen, but I mean, I did like how it kind of zoomed out, and you had like a little AI battle in the shadows going on while it was loading. That was cool.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like the first time we saw that, like, oh, what a neat little touch to have like on the loading screen.
Just something to look at, right? Something to engage with, like being in practice mode in King of the Hill, Something like that. We completely went way off topic of Nietsky's comment, but I appreciate that. That's
Oh, what was the comment again?
Can't justify having this game installed on your PC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I've complained about that several times on here, right? People need to listen to me to go into that again.
No, we appreciate Nietsky comments.
Plus, the port's not very good, right? It has a lot of problems and perpetual compiling of shaders, and I feel like it still has more online problems than the console versions. And
I haven't played it.
I don't hear happy things from PC players.
No, they're saying it's all kinds of buggy and all sorts of stuff. So, mind you, NRS has never really had super clean PC ports, so this doesn't really surprise me, to be honest. But it is what it is. More of the same, much or less. Next comment here, Razorian Buck, talking about Shang. I'm not going to read the whole comment here because it is a little bit of a rant, but that's okay. We appreciate those around here. It's not like we're exempt from doing those ourselves. One thing about my opinion on Shang in this game, and I will say he's not one of the stronger characters in the game, but the fact that he can make any matchup that he's playing a mirror match instantly makes him viable, in my opinion, because it essentially has 3 sets of tools. He has young Shang, old Shang, and then your opponent's moves, plus his cameo on top of that, whatever cameo he's using. So I mean,
and the cameo steal
on top of all of that. So I mean, he's just got so many tools, and he's probably the most complicated character to play in the game, which is why I think he's kind of on the lower end of the spectrum, but I don't think he's the worst by far. The worst
he has a skill floor. He has a pretty high skill floor.
Yeah, you gotta learn a lot about the game. You gotta learn a couple different characters. Well, ideally every character in the game, so that if you get in the matchup, you can switch and do at least a combo or something. Plus, he can turn into that character with a damage boost. So you think about a character like Natar or someone that's like hitting like crazy. You turn Shang into Natar with a damage boost.
It doesn't even give you an all-out outfit. It's actually, if he stays in there for a while, right? I get confused about which one I'm looking at because they look exactly the same. And it is I feel like it's always psychological damage. Things like parries, getting to people's heads a lot, and fighting against, not just the mirror match, right? But just fighting against your own character, especially if you know that it's coming. Like that setup with the EX one for the damage buff, and you're like plus 30 and whatever. I hate that situation. It feels so bad to get opened up by your own mix-ups and stuff, and
and it's like a double whammy because it's one thing to get opened up in a mirror match, but to get opened up as somebody who started as a different character, then switched to your character on the fly, and then opens you up, it's oh man, that's extra bad.
Yeah, and whether we like it or not, there's going to be ego involved in this sort of stuff.
100%.
It's just a matter of a caliber, right? That's a big bruise to an ego. We've been playing a lot of rivals, and you've probably noticed that when the enemy team has your character, they go out of your way to try to grief you, right? They have to get that kill on you. They're the one that's gonna chase you down or whatever. It's an ego thing that feeds into it. It's it feels bad for Shang to turn into Mileena and then kill me.
Yeah.
It feels extra bad.
So I do think that Shang has a lot of things that he can do in this game, more options than any other character. Doesn't necessarily make him top tier, but it makes him viable given the limited tool set that he has, especially as you mentioned in the Shang, young Shang with his one overhead, that's just meant to kind of condition you, not really to
give you a combo or something.
Yeah. So it's just something. So limited moveset, but I mean, you can have any one in the game. So that it would be crazy if we ever saw an iteration of Shang like we did in MK2, where you can turn into any character in the cast and just do stuff. Was MK2, MK3, one of those old ones?
Yeah, MK2. He could. Well, did both of those games? Could he do that?
Maybe,
because there was an input. Every character had their own input. Right? It was just a special move that he did to turn into a specific character.
Yeah, and then you had their moves for a little bit. So you didn't even have to be necessarily playing against them, which would be nuts. I wonder how hard that would be to implement in MK1. Imagine that's the last buff that they give Shang. T1000 comes out.
They'd have to load every single character, all the animations, all the everything into one single match.
That would be nuts.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of resources go into that. I remember in MK11, they're on a new engine now, but I remember Derek Kurtzig talking about leading up to MK11. They actually wanted to have like a tag mode, sort of like MK9. I don't know if it'd be just like that. It wouldn't be like the main feature of the game.
Right.
But someone was asking about it, and he's like, I mean, he's like, obviously we've talked about it, but to have all the assets for the stage and then 2 characters and their variations and all that sort of stuff, there's just not enough resources to do that for 4 characters. Or at least there wasn't at the time.
Yeah.
It said something along those lines.
Which makes sense. You know, I understand that. They know more about those engines than I do for sure, but, you know, a man can dream, as they say, right? You know?
Yep.
Last comment here by the Clemens says, on the next podcast, can you talk about the cheaters? Yes, we can. And I have seen this, and there's 2 clips in particular that I want to. I think it was Sikander who originally posted something on Twitter about, you know, this auto duck mode, and I'm assuming it's probably some sort of a PC thing, I would imagine, like where you just can't be thrown. Your opponent press the throw, and it's so obvious. Like if you just press the throw button full screen, your opponent will just duck.
Then they duck, yeah.
Yeah, which is it's just so stupid.
Did you see the clip of who was it? What was playing Quan Chi and just baited them into it and just comboed them every single time?
Yeah, there was a Quan Chi Frost and put out the Frost Bomb, and then would just throw with Quan, and every single time the Frost Bomb would just punish them for doing that.
Talk about adapting, right? Adapting to things that aren't even in the game. I love that.
Yeah, it's stuff like that is like so
if you
cool.
look at those guy's videos, he's like, oh, bodying this person on rank or tearing up rank with like whatever. I can't believe people can use cheats like that and then try to pop off about their wins like at the same time.
That's so stupid.
Like both those things I don't think can it's got to be one or the other, brother.
Yeah, like you just was silently through the shadows cheating and beating up people, whatever, but you're going to go online and flex about it? Like, that's so stupid. Like, nobody thinks you're cool. Like, nobody thinks you're cool. It's cringy at best, unfortunately. I'm actually surprised that we don't see more of that stuff, or that it took almost a year for us to see something like that, because I don't think we've seen... only other things I've seen are just mods. They had the Disney Princess mod. That was really funny.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, they had all the characters as like Cinderella and like the Wicked Witch and all this kind of stuff. It was really funny. That's cool. There was a Toy Story mod too. It was like Woody versus Buzz, that kind of a thing.
I've been seeing the Minecraft and Dragon Ball ones floating around Twitter the last week.
Yeah, I saw Steve from Minecraft on there as Omni-Man's moveset. It was kind of funny. People are creative, man. I don't know how people come up with all this stuff. So recently in the news, from Mortal Kombat news, Combo Breaker was announced for this year, which was usual time, usual place. I didn't think that really surprised anybody, but one of the side events that they're having is MKX, which is interesting. And I saw Sonic Fox
and their retro game tournaments.
Yeah, I saw Sonic saying, "Oh, that's part of the retro game," and I was like, "Man, calling MKX a retro game makes me feel old." Like really old.
I think retro. I don't know what would define something as retro. I'm sure there's some sort of parameters, right? It's got to be something a little bit like older than like. It's obviously not the modern game. Is that just what makes it retro? Like prior generations of console, or it's just not the modern, like the current iteration of the game? Which would make MK11 retro?
I would hazard a guess that there's probably some sort of like an age gap, like similar like a classic car, quote unquote. It's like 25 years or something. I'm assuming.
I mean, it's 10 years. It's the 10-year anniversary.
That's 10 years,
right?
Man.
Came out in 2015.
That's true. That is true. In the spring, actually, probably like
maybe it's 10 years.
Yeah, no, you're right. 2015. That also would mark 10 years since I started as a content creator on YouTube.
Hey, let's go.
A decade on YouTube. Who would have guessed? I just figured that out right in this moment. Holy crap. That's a long time.
Yeah, you old.
I'm old. I'm old. I watched children grow up into adults. It's crazy, man.
I know. How old was your boy when you first started YouTube? And 10 years ago. So he'd be what, 4?
5.5. Yeah, he'll
5?
be 16 this year. Oh, that's a scary thought.
Dang.
Yeah, he's growing up fast. But yeah, 10 years. That's crazy, man. You know me, hater. One thing that I'd never like to do is to go on Twitter and make hot takes. Like that's probably the last thing I'll ever do.
Never seen it. Never seen it ever. And a lot of them are pretty bad, I gotta say. But
Yeah.
where are we going here?
I did have to give my opinion on MKX since everyone was talking about it. I don't think the gameplay aged very nicely, and I talked about it a little bit when I made my little tier list of all the games, you know. But yeah, I'm excited to watch it because the people that still play it are super passionate about it, and
it's fun to watch.
It is fun to watch.
It's fun to watch. The more you know about the game, the more fun it is to watch. I think, even though you're like grimacing at some of these mix-ups and flash parries, things like that are like Tremor's just so dominating, right?
Tremor, Liu Kang, like, oh man. But like, nothing is more hype than watching a good Boraicho. That character is so fun to watch. Like, he's just the mix, especially in Dragon's Fire. Like, I think that's what it was called, Dragon's Fire. When he like blows up his farts and stuff. That's still funny. That's a character.
I like the characters we never see, like Cyber Sub-Zero. I love seeing a well-played Cyber Sub-Zero. There was a few in like the online tournament scene leading up to Injustice 2 when MKX was kind of like everyone was like playing that in the Injustice 2 waiting room.
Right.
So there was a couple monsters playing that character. That's always like way cool, but you like never see them, so it's like really novel. See it played at high level.
I'd like to see like maybe it's something that I could host. I could like make a tournament and only certain variations are allowed. You know, like the most obscure variations, and just see how that does. I remember hosting an event once, and Mr. Moss played as variationless Kenshi, which was hilarious. It was like no special moves at all.
Yeah, there was a variationless Kodal that was on.
Oh yeah,
and Mr. Aquaman's and a bunch of others. Maybe not a bunch of others. I think it was Mr. Aquaman's, but he was variationless Kodal, which meant that he had no totems. What else does he miss there? I don't know why people would do that to themselves. That's cool. If you think it makes you a better player, right? Giving yourself certain restrictions like that. But
maybe
that would be dude, that'd be interesting. That'd be playing like MK1 with no cameo. Like what characters could still keep up and what are only like half complete, right? Like what other characters besides Kodal, just because we've seen it, right? And I guess you've seen Kenshi as well. Have you seen any other variationless?
Quan would still do good because he's just got like really good base mix-ups and plus frames and all that kind of stuff. So I think like
you're missing Puggles and
the little puddles that he does, the Circle of Love that gives him the armor, and the meter drain stuff, and the Warlock kicks. Man, Warlock kick was so much better than MK1's Quan Chi kick.
Warlock had extra normals, right? Like modified normals that use the sword, or no?
Yeah, a couple different normals. He had that kind of portal grab where his arm would reach through and grab you by your little head and pull you through the portal. That was fun. And the scoop. That was the biggest part of Warlock, was the scoop. He'd forward 4 scoop, like overhead low, super duper fast. Meter burn it for a combo, you know? So many times I would hit people with like overhead scoop.
It's like how Bone Shaper plays.
Very similar, yeah. I forgot about that variation too, man.
New Bone Shaper's so fun. I was playing that a lot when everyone was necroing MKX when they were salty at Injustice 2. I was learning Kodal and Shinnok.
We're starting to see that again right now with MK11. Like the amount of MK11 content I've seen in the last couple of weeks, like, why are you going back to that game? Like, oh, really leave that in the past, you know? If you ever see me make a video on MK11, that's how you know I'm desperate. Be like, Dinks lost it. That's it. It's over.
Take him out to the farm and shoot him. Put him out of his misery. Farm.
Yeah, I'm just farming for views.
If someone tried to talk me into it, and let's say they did successfully talk me into installing it again, the second like somebody did a breakaway or like whatever, it'd be like, oh yeah. As soon as I get flawless blocked out of my own hit advantage and full comboed. Like, yeah.
It's that Jade down two. That Jade down two.
I don't see. I don't even think that's the the least fun part of the game. The thing that's so unfun about the down twos is that you get full combos, like crazy combos off of them, right? It does a shit ton of damage, and you know, you get one per match and stuff. I don't think I really like the idea, and if you play other fighting games, I like the idea of counters and punishes and stuff being able to give you things that those same moves or buttons normally don't. Like you see that all the time in like Street Fighter and Tekken, right? Like this is 4-hit advantage, but if it is a counter hit, then you get 6 advantage, and if it's a punish, you get 6 or 8 advantage or something. It's just a way to, like, if you can hit confirm this, it might not lead into a combo, right? But you have the extra advantage, or it can combo into something it normally couldn't unless it was like, a counter hit. And it sounds like NRS took that idea and like, oh, let's put our spin on it, just like they did with Combat League for ranked or whatever, right? And just awful. And the worst thing about Crushing Blows is just how unevenly distributed they were across the cast. Like, some characters are so blessed, and others just, why give them any at all?
I remember at Combo Breaker, the year that MK11 came out, Destroyer sat down to play a match with somebody, and he was playing as Garrus, and 3 crushing blows back to back to back, and that was the game.
Yep.
And then he got up and he just kind of shrugged, and I was like, man, that was insane. And he's like, yeah, it's the game, I guess. That moment just always stuck in my head. He just gets up and I'm like, man, what was that? And just shrugs. That's the game, I guess. But
it's not like the slower neutral, the simple combos. I mean, that does kind of suck, right? But that's not the kind of stuff that annoyed me into thinking, like, my opinion is not that it's a boring game. My opinion is that it's an unfun game.
Yeah.
And those are like the unfun things about it. Locking somebody down into their own advantage, that shit is just annoying.
Yeah, the defenders having like the advantage at all times, like having some options is one thing, but having the advantage is like, yeah, no thanks. And that just like doubled up on how good restands were in that game too. So speaking of that, when I saw a clip earlier of MK11, it is crazy to me how much better Sindel's scream looks in Mortal Kombat 1 than Mortal Kombat 11. Like, if you ever get a chance to go back and look at that animation, it looks so clunky in MK11. Like, just like like a projectile almost. Like, the way that, like, her scream, like, the purplish just kind of vibrates and stuff in MK1. Like, it looks so much nicer than...
Yeah, I was like, now that we have the newer version, that's good that the newer version is the better one, right? And it's not the other way around.
That would be terrible.
I was so happy to have her back. Like, there was a few mods for MKX PC that like unlocked her, and it was basically like the NPC from story mode, so it was just a direct port of her MK9 moves, so nothing like really comboed, and didn't really have anything. Like, obviously they had that for Baraka and stuff as well, the story characters that you can't play for real in the game. So I was so excited to have her back in a Mortal Kombat game that I didn't really even notice that stuff. I do like a lot of her I miss like all the Banshee stuff from MK11. I wish MK1 Sindel was less wholesome. I mean, she does have some badass B, like in her and stuff, but it's still a little like went like really heavy-handed with the whole motherly love thing, and the polar opposite of the worst version of her, which was the MK11. MK3 when she's introduced, and like how the only thing that was lame about her to me in MK9 was just it seems so plot devicey for her to just come back and like literally just kill everyone. Like they were just trying to get so much done in like 2 minutes that they're just like let's just have Sindel body everybody, right? But that's not her fault. But I definitely like the Banshee idea like way better, and all of her like air dashes with the Banshee and things like that. MK11, I wish that would have stuck around. I thought that was super sick and fits her like aesthetic very well.
I think she's probably, over the course of the NRS era, probably the most polarizing character, like as far as like plot-wise goes. Like they're not really consistent with what they want her to do. Like they had the MK9 version, which I thought was super cool. MKX she was kind of in the background, like Revenant, just kind of MK9 kind of thing.
Right. She was a jobber.
Yeah, and then MK11 came around, and then she was kind of like the MK9 style, but then that recon was just so poorly received by everybody. I was like, why did you do that? You didn't need to do that. And then it's like in MK1, they just completely went the other way. And they're like, okay, well, oh, you didn't like that? Now she's wholesome as fuck and she loves her gals, you know? Like, I don't know. They need to have that balance. Like, it's okay to have, like, you know, I think if they would have done half the story mode of her being that wholesome mother and then something happens and she goes into her badass self again, while still leaving that storyline intact, that's the way they should have done it, in my opinion. Rather than flip-flopping all over the place.
I definitely prefer like Banshee, Goth Queen, hair whipping people. Like that is my Sindel, like for sure. And we have remnants of her in this MK1 Sindel, but you know, no ghoul eyes, no cool makeup, no like what was cool about like so her original story from MK3, right? She was the wholesome mother and married to Jared or whatever, Queen of Edenia, and then she died. Right, did she sacrifice herself at some point or whatever? She ended up dying, and it was when she was resurrected. And that's like her banshee form is when she was brought back from the dead. And that was cool lore. That's cool, like why she is, and she's still like the good mom and the good like whatever. But that's not who she is anymore. And MK1 trying to redo things, and it's trying to give us, you know, that version of her before she was resurrected into the banshee. But it just doesn't. It's like, why is Raiden a Boy Scout? And then popping people's heads with electricity or whatever. Like the guy doesn't have a malicious bone in his body. The way that they wrote him and it like makes just no sense to me. And it's not cool contrast or good character development. It's just boring.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Probably one of my pet peeves is whenever like Raiden gets some sort of brutality and he blows your head off or whatever, and he's like, we didn't have to come to this. And it's like, bro, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, he's like, you just went out of your way to make sure you not only murdered me, but you like styled on me, bro. Like, you can't, it just doesn't make any, I don't know.
Yeah, he needed to have some sort of a turning point, I think, that never really happened for him. He was always kind of just like the oh, this is so crazy and wonderful, what a crazy world this is, you know, and then just blow someone's head off.
Yeah, and I know they want to kind of reverse the Liu Kang Raiden thing, but I much prefer how Raiden used to be. NRS era has not been kind to Raiden. Like he was a fuck up in MK9
Yeah.
and he was a fuck up in MKX. He finally starts to get like a cool anti-hero arc, right? Dark Raiden delivers Liu Kang and Katana, the head of Shinnok, and that's how they set up MK11 with that whole scene and everything. And then they spent like 45 seconds with him in the story mode, and then dumbass Raiden is back. But I like Elder God Raiden, who's like 9 feet tall, and you know he has an imposing stance, right? Like he's a big guy. He's a god, and we got this little dweeb, you know. So sorry about that.
Right? Yeah. No. Well, did they ever really like talk about what happened to Dark Raiden, or did they just kind of like slowly just like erase him?
Yeah. Well, it was. Didn't Raiden regular dumbass Raiden got brought back with everybody else, and then Dark Raiden's like, wait, there can't be 2 of us here, like at the same time, and then he evaporated or some shit. But then is it because he's an elder god? I don't know. It's been so. I literally only watched the story once, but
yeah, I do remember that.
Dumb Raiden showed up and Dark Raiden went away at the same time, is what I remember happening.
They need to have some sort of a crazy duel or something, you know, and then Dark Raiden should have been defeated, or Dark Raiden defeats, you know, dumbass Raiden, you know, that would have been way cooler than whatever the hell happened that obviously wasn't memorable, because neither of us can recall.
If this was like fantasy football, like fantasy Mortal Kombat, like make your roster from like any of the like whatever, definitely that Dark Raiden from post-credit scene in MKX for Raiden, and then Old Man Fu Manchu for Kung Lao. Like those are the best 2 versions of those 2 characters that don't really do that much for me. Otherwise, I like MK9 Devora or MK9 MKX Devora. Her look aesthetically and like her robe and things like that, I like way more than Devora and MK11.
Yeah, I get what they're going for in MK11, but no, I hard agree with you. That was a major downgrade for Devora. She's her peak is her MKX design, and I hope they don't stray too far from that with the little hood, and you know, she had those little fishnets on in the one costume. Man, she was cool in that game. She probably still is, but I don't play it.
The Vampirus outfit in MKX for Mileena is the best she's ever looked in any game. That's like my absolute favorite, especially in Ravenous with no mask. But I like the lips. I think I'm in the minority. I definitely like.
I think you are. I hate those things.
I love what they did with that, and I feel like that's the only thing that's missing with MK1 Mileena, because I think otherwise MK1 Mileena, they just nailed it with, I would say, most, if not all, definitely most, like 99 spot something percent. Like the way they did her hair and things like that. Her out, not talking about the colors and things like that, right? But just like the core outfits, and they've given her a lot of love with the premium store skins and stuff. They just knocked it out of the park with her, and she always looks good. Other than some color palette stuff, but core design wise,
I think that like
she's sick.
Lore wise, Baraka in MK1 is probably my favorite. Like I like it was a risky move to do the whole Tarkot thing, but I think that's one of the things that they did well in that game. And the fact that Baraka is like this leader of this kind of like, you know, crusty old crew trying to get, you know, keep them safe and all that kind of stuff. And rather than just being like a monster that's doing work for, you know, Shao Kahn, it's just it gives him way more purpose, you know. And even though I find his gameplay boring, I think the lore is the best that they've ever done to Baraka.
They gave like a lot of asymmetry to, like, you know, his body horns and things like that too, and they gave him lots, like, some tattoos, and the story's cool, but it's still the best he's looked, right? He definitely looks better than MK11 Baraka. The big problem with MK11 Baraka is the teeth. I don't like the way they did the Tarkatan teeth for Baraka or Mileena in that game.
Yeah, Mileena.
And then, you know, 3D era did not treat Baraka very well at all, so he's definitely looking good.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the flag that they gave him in that game.
Oh my god!
I thought that was
dude. It's so
cringe.
funny running full screen with that, right? Charging with, then you hit people because it's got the armor,
super armor,
just running for like 90 frames from across the screen, and you still hit them.
You got Rambo with his M16, just like, and you're just running, it's like ding 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 ding.
Dude, it's so funny. Oh my god!
It's one of the goofiest moves I've ever seen in an NRS game, but that's why I love it so much.
It looks so funny.
Design wise, hate it, but like it makes me laugh. I gotta say. How
do you feel about Reptile from MK? Let's just start at MK9. So MK9, MKX, where they like doubled down on the bestial aspect of him, and then the MK1 version, the Killer Croc. I mean, or they kind of have the half and half going on, right? Definitely not an Injustice 3 Killer Croc thing going on.
Definitely.
But which do you prefer?
I think out of all of them, MK9 is my favorite. I like that. They have like the Reptile version, but he also had like a human version too, which was the classic ninja skin. I thought both of those were super cool. MKX I hated. I think that's the worst. My least favorite Reptile is just way too...
Yeah, he looks like a bitch, doesn't he, right? Like he's like a job in the story, but he looks like a jobber. He looks like a total bitch.
He's got one of the most... My favorite intro in MKX is between him and Quan Chi. And he comes on screen, he says... I would test your skill, and Quan Chi says, you would fail that test. It's just like such a bird. I love it. But yeah, such a jobber. MK1, I feel like that design could have been a new character. It didn't need to be Reptile. Like, the character's cool, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I feel like they could have created a new character, and that model could have been a new character. Minus the Killer Croc stuff, you know? That was an interesting way to do it. Not my jam. I like the way that the Reptile character looks, but it just doesn't scream Reptile to me. You know, the kind of like emo scene look to it with like the face tattoo. I don't know. Just could have been a different character. Not Reptile. Speaking
I'm a big fan of like MK2-ish, like I remember when MK2 first came out, and I was like, oh, Reptile, because he was the secret character in the first game, right? They're putting him in this game, and when he would lift up his mask to spit acid, or he had the fatality where he would, his tongue would go out and pop off your head, like he would eat your head. That's the kind of Reptile I feel like we're missing. You know, like... You didn't realize, oh shit, it's not, they don't call him Reptile because he's green. It's like really a reptile or something going on, right? When he lifts up the mask, and definitely so they did the kind of cool transmutation or like whatever's going on, especially like only the waist up ones when he's doing like the acid and stuff in MK1. But I agree with you. I would have liked to see that go in maybe a little bit different direction, like not acid because it wouldn't be themed with Reptile, but themed with something else. But the same general idea is like a different character, a new character.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. There was enough originality in that design to be a completely different character. One thing that I do like that NRS does that I think they do, that's one of the things that kind of separates them from the other fighting games, is the intro quotes and like the brutality quotes and like the ways that the characters like interact with each other, like so personally. That's one thing that NRS does like super duper well. Like you don't get that in Street Fighter, you don't get that in Tekken. They have like a generic like I am here to beat you up or whatever, kind of line. But
sometimes they have unique lines, right? But not like the way NRS does. But they definitely put some in that, like Ryu versus Chun-Li, he'll say something specifically to her. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I feel like I heard that in passing, but it's not like. But don't you think the novelty's kind of lost on that? It is kind of cool, like sometimes, but it's like, oh, this again, oh, this again.
I can't help but get wrapped up in it sometimes. Like, I remember we were talking about it like months before Chaos Reigns came out, where they had an intro with Sector where it talks about how Madame Bo is her mother, and I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. You think we're gonna see some Madame Bo stuff? And you're just like, no, NRS just does this shit. They just throw it in there, and I'm like, oh, you're right. But it gives the little lore bombs like that. They give me hype for those types of things.
It's cool when it makes sense, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense at all. And sometimes there's little nuggets and stuff in there.
Little nuggets.
I mean, there's some really funny stuff. Like one of my favorites is Sector versus Mileena. And Sector's like, they let people like you become Empress. And she's
right.
like, what's that supposed to mean? Like her eyes get all wide and stuff. Like she's like really offended. That makes me laugh.
So on this topic, I've come up with a little game that I would like to challenge you to here, Hater, on intro quotes in MK1. I'm going to test your knowledge here. These are all characters that I believe you have at least touched at one point in time. I have 5 quotes here of varying difficulty.
Put me on the spot here.
I am, and I want to see if you can name which character is this quote from. I'm starting off really easy for you, okay? At least I think this is easy. You should get. Are you ready for this challenge, Hater? Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Okay, so this first quote is, "I've had stranger bedfellows."
I've had stranger bedfellows?
I've had stranger bedfellows.
Oh man, this is not gonna go well for me. I mean, you said it was easy, so I imagine that's not Mileena.
It's not, but you're on the right track. You're on the right track. I've had
Katana?
stranger bedfellows. This is talking to Scorpion, is the hint that I'll give you.
I've had stranger bedfellows. Well, who's humping Scorpion? Is that what a bedfellow is?
I think so. I think that's the line.
Who's snuggling up to Scorpion? Man, I don't like this game. Here, tell me the answer to that one, and maybe I'll be better the next one.
All right. So the answer to this one is in Natara. So Scorpion's questioning her about teaming up with Quan Chi, and she says, "I've had stranger bedfellows." I'm not sure if that's indicating that they're banging or what, but
no, I don't know where they're going with that.
Okay. Let's see if you get this next one. So this next one is, "I grow tired of people questioning my choices."
I knew there's nothing in you like I would have to. There's nothing in that line that gives me any indication of any specific character.
Aw, that's a shame. I thought you would get that one easy.
Why? I would have to have heard it like 10,000 times and still have like the association without there being like a reference to something maybe in there. Give me a little seed of something to be able to connect the dots. Otherwise, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, that's fair. I went through. This one was Mileena. So she's talking about.
What was the line?
"I grow tired of people questioning my choices."
Oh.
So I'm sure she's kind of referring to Tanya in this, like kind of in passing here. She's talking to Raiden here. I think talking about joining sides with Noob Sailboat. something like that.
Oh.
And she said, yeah, why would you do that? Blah, blah, blah. I grow tired of people questioning my choices. Because that was the whole thing with, she couldn't be in love with Tanya or whatever, that whole thing. Anyway.
That's right, yeah.
The other 3 quotes are even more obscure. So
Are they?
They are.
We should do this again.
We should.
I would recommend an exchange like 2 ways, right? We have both characters speak, and that'll probably be helpful as well.
So like the whole conversation?
Yeah, because they're short and stuff anyway, right?
They're usually only.
Or that can be the hint. It's the first line is the question, right? And then I need a lifeline. Okay, here's the response, but now it's only worth $1 dink dollar and not 3 dink dollars.
$1 dink dollar, like the cage
Yep.
coins.
Yep.
I need to come up with an image for a dink dollar, and we'll do this again. And that's good feedback. You can have like, I don't know how we would make that better. This was just off the cuff, me trying something new.
No, hey, I respect it.
I like coming up with
and
games.
I'm sorry, I'm a dumbass.
No, I mean, asking someone who hasn't played the game in a month to remember all these lines and who they portray, who knows? It's poor.
Dude, ever since Rivals the Rivals came out like soon after all the quote unquote news or whatever for MK came out. So it's just been, it's hard to stay motivated to play MK, and Rivals is very fun. So
Rivals is super
it's hard
fun
to get off of it.
I'm having my problem with Rivals right now is I really don't want to learn another character. I'm having so much fun with the 2 characters that I'm learning, Loki and Penny Parker, that like when I try and pick up another character, it's just like, man, it just isn't fun. Like I started picking up Storm last night just because she's the only character that seems interesting to me because she sucks and no one uses her. And I just wanted to see what she does and because it's interesting to me, but like all the other tanks, like Captain America is boring, Thor is boring, Hulk's kind of interesting, but not at all how I like to play those types of games. So it's been hard.
Yeah,
for me.
I think once you play the game like more in general and start thinking, we talked about this a little bit before, right? Thinking about it as like the objective and the compositions and like your role in that or what you can enable based on like what's happening, it becomes easier, right? You don't think about it so much as like, oh, this hero and I love them so much, right? It's just kind of like, we have this problem that's presented to us by the enemy team, and somebody's going to take care of it. And if I've got a flex to like do that, then I guess that's just like, like what I'm going to do, because I want to win. I don't want to lose. Right. So, it's like, I was thinking about this the other day. You ever play poker, Dink?
Like in my early 20s, I went through a phase where
you understand it though, right? Like, like what a royal flush is and pairs and, things like that. I was thinking about it like that, right? And so let's say that there's 6 cards in your hand. That's not, I think poker's 5 or something, isn't it? But just for the sake, because there's 6 characters in that game.
Sure.
And it's like, oh my gosh, we could have a royal flush. What could beat a royal flush here? And you have a guy in your team. It's like, I don't know. I really like 7 of diamonds. And it's like, we literally are so close to a royal flush. No. So I'm good. I could go 6 of diamonds or 6 or 7 of diamonds. And it's like, okay, so everyone shuffles around and it's like, okay, so now we have a pair of 6s and 3 of a kind or something, right? And we're going up against the enemy team that's also doing the same thing, that probably has a royal flush or has the potential to do it. That's like how I've been kind of like thinking about it, right? I don't want to be the 7 of diamonds guy. But I also, not everything is, I agree, is like fun, especially if you're thinking just on character level and not more of like, objective, space control, just objective in general, right? Characters are like a catalyst. Like, I don't care what they look like. I care that it's a hit scan projectile, and Iron Man is going to pay the price for just blowing us up all map because no one else, or all match, right? Because no one else could do anything about it, or wasn't playing a character that was good against it or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, I try and I kind of think of it in the same way as fighting games. Like, I play characters I think are cool, or they have a play style that I like to play. So either they're like a zoning character, or there's someone like Quan Chi. Like, Quan Chi's not a great character in MK1, but I have a lot of fun playing him, win, lose, or draw, so I'm going to play him anyways. And, I try and have that same mentality when it goes over to team games, but in team games it's different because it's not just my own success that I'm facing.
Right. It's not just your experience. It is like about teamwork, right? Just like the talks they give to you at work about like working together and being symbiotic, like having synergy and things like that, right? Not just everyone doing their own thing and hoping that it works out. But that's how a lot of people played the game, right? Like that's all the lower ranks, bronze, silver, all of that stuff. Not that I'm a bronze Andy. Like I'm not good at this game, but I've been trying to learn about it and trying to instill, like think about it like in the ways that I was kind of talking about. Try not to like flex too much, but definitely stay mindful of like what's happening.
Bronze was frustrating.
Contributions and all that.
Bronze was super frustrating. It was just like I'm sitting there and then just 4 people just instant lock DPS, and I'm just like, okay, well, you guys want a tank or a healer? It'll be one or the other, because I.
So when you're in stuff like this was something that I heard. My algorithm's riddled with rival stuff right now on YouTube, and I don't remember which person said this. I've actually heard it in a couple different videos. One of those like, how do I solo queue out of bronze? Those sorts of videos that I'm clicking on, right? And it's not like I think the videos are necessarily going to help me, other than like maybe some random bits of advice. But what I keep hearing over and over, like especially when you're in groups like that, and basically universally in bronze and silvers, you can't rely on anybody besides yourself, right? If they want to lock in 5 DPS, don't be thinking about team comp and like, well, we could use the support. Like unless you think that can actually help you win, give them a chance to pop off. Who knows, like how it could go, right? But you have to be thinking about numero uno, and that's you. Like, if you can help them, if you can heal them, if you can do like whatever, then that's fine. But you just have to focus on keeping yourself alive and doing like whatever you're most comfortable doing, whatever you think will be the biggest contribution. You can't control them, right? So just don't try to team up with them if they're not going to team up with you. You just got to do your own thing and try to work around whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But the law of averages, that works out.
I mean, the advice that I saw in a video, and maybe you saw probably, I know we've talked about this creator before, but like one of the advice was like, in those lower ranks, you have to carry your team. That's how you need to view yourself, is you need to be the carry. You can't rely on anybody else, You have to assume that you're the best player on that team and play accordingly. And that's how you'll get out of there.
You have to have enough self-awareness that like when you're losing, especially a lot, like you're the common denominator, right? That can't just be when you're winning a lot, I'm the common denominator. Yeah, patting yourself on the back, like sort of thing. Like there's probably things that you could be doing differently. Like, have you heard of the 30-30-40 rule? That's what they call it. 30% of your games you're going to win no matter what your contribution is, right? It's just how it works, and you end up with like a good team that ends up like carrying you through. 30% of your games, it doesn't matter what you do or how good you are or how hard you're trying to carry your team, you're going to lose, right? It's just going to like fall apart. It's just like what the odds are, statistically about getting paired, especially like when you're solo queuing. Then the other 40% are games that you win or lose based on your direct contribution, right? When you lose those games, it is your fault. And when you win those games, you made good plays, right? Whether you kept your team alive, you hit your shots, like whatever it may be, but that's the bigger chunk, right? 30-30-40. So, it can be kind of like a slow grind, like this ebb and flow, back and forth sort of thing. But like if you stick to it and you are a good person, you should be still a good person, a good player.
I was going to say,
I don't care if you're a good person. No, if you're a good player, then you should be advancing. I'm a bad player. Like I'm trying to get better and stuff, but I'm definitely not very good. I don't have good game sense in these sorts of games.
Yeah, it feels like
in general, I don't have good, and in general, I feel like I don't have good game sense, and it really shows in a game like this.
Yeah, that's why I tend to not really stick around with team games a lot. Is just like my lack of knowledge is affecting other people, and I don't like that. I like if I'm losing in a fighting game, it's just me. That's one thing, but like, I find myself so often to just be like, I'm trying to put those two things side by side. Like I find myself in a scenario in which I just get absolutely shredded. And I'm like, okay, there were these people and I was in this part of the map and I was here. what was I supposed to do? Like, I just don't have experience in those scenarios to know what to do there. Whereas, like, in a fighting game, if I lose, I understand why that happened to me. You know, I understand, okay, they were conditioning with this and then hit me with the overhead or something like that, you know?
Right.
But I just haven't been put in those scenarios enough in team games to really understand how to counter what happened, you know?
Right, and I think a lot of that is experience, but it's also you handicap yourself because you play on controller. And we talked about that yesterday, right? It's like, you could have grappled there. Like, I can't spin around fast enough. Well, that's why you can play controller on PC. Obviously, you do that when you play on PC and stuff, but it's definitely like the inferior peripheral. You can get by on controller and stuff, especially if you play like ranked on console with other console players, but it is definitely not the same. And there's no argument to be made versus like a hardware mouse and keyboard versus a controller, the way the analog stick work, no matter what kind of like auto aim or aim assist they try to give you, and things like that. And then you have your sensitivity so high so you can spin around, but then you can't aim worse shit because you just auto overcorrect, right? Because the sensitivity is like way too high.
If there was a different way to move around other than WASD, because that just within like 2 minutes my wrist is just killing me. I don't know if it's because I'm not used to that layout.
It's got to be the ergonomics of what you're doing, like either your keyboard itself or how you're holding your wrist. You could probably find some guides on the old YouTube, right, about people that have that same sort of problem and like what helped them. And it might just be a simple readjustment of just like how you rest your wrist on your desk or the pad of your keyboard or whatever like your setup is. But that's like the most common like movement system across all games. Like the reason it is that way is because it works and it's not like you know, it can be ergonomic. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you there.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's just all the reasons to play this game keep stacking against me, I tell you. But
no, like I feel like you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole.
yeah, that's
it's the idea of the round peg, but you're reluctant to give up your square peg.
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen that video going around. There's this gal watching a guy who's got one of those buckets with like all the different shapes, and he's like, "Where does the square go?" And it's like, "In the square hole." It's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Where's the rectangle go?" And she's like, "In the rectangle hole." He's like, "That's right, in the square hole," and puts it in the square hole. "Where does the half moon go?" "In the half moon hole." "That's right, it goes in the square hole." And they all. That's
right, yeah, because it's the one that it can fit everything, right? Because it's just the big hole. I did see that.
So that's like my thinking, you know, that square hole, you know, you just need to turn it and it'll work. You'll figure it out. It'll fit in there somehow.
I mean, just be mindful, like when you say like you're struggling, you're not sure like what's going on, you know that you're working within those confinements, right? So you need to, you know, I feel like especially if you're going to be playing Penny and on like some of those maps, like
some of those
you need to know like if it's time to advance, you need to know where you're going depending on like what's happening on like the other team, right? But if you need to retreat, like where you're retreating to, and initiating that before it's too late to do it, right? If it's going to take you longer to turn around, then you have to make that call sooner, which means that you may give up a kill, right? But you could end up staying alive.
Yeah, that's something that I've just like probably in the last day or two like kind of been focusing on, is like knowing when to run away. Like before I'd just be like, I'm out here and when everyone else dies, I guess I'll die too. But you know, if I see everyone else dying around me, like, get fucked, idiots, I'm running away. Like, I don't want to die. That's like 30 seconds down. I'd rather be low in the back for a minute than to be dead.
Yeah, be low in the back, or like if you're the only one left, right, start backing up and give them some space and let your team catch up to you. You know, whatever.
That's what I've been focusing on lately. This is a good chat, Hater. This was a productive day. You know, we covered a variety of topics.
We did. We thought we weren't going to have anything to talk about.
No, we thought that it was going to be a shorter episode today, but like always, we figure it out. Sorry for anyone that wasn't interested in the Rivals discussion. We had a lot to go over there.
Like always, Hater just won't stop talking.
Hey. Until I do my outro, and that's where it ends. So, thank you everyone for listening for another week. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, because it really helps me out. Subscribe if you haven't, because I make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks and all that stuff. We'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.